The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside, thousands of representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising circular tiers, their voices a constant murmur that echoed through the vast space. Among them, the human delegation stood out, not for their appearance, but for their stillness. Ambassador James Walker kept his face carefully neutral as he watched yet another council vote go against Earth's interests. He had spent 15 years in this chamber, watching humanity's hopes for equal treatment fade with each passing cycle. His gray hair had grown white here, waiting for the council to recognize what humanity had become. The council speaker, a tall being with silvery skin, raised all four arms for attention. The motion to restrict human expansion beyond their current colonial borders has passed, it announced, voice translated into perfect universal standard. The vote stands at 812 in favor, 193 against. Walker felt his hands tighten on the smooth metal railing before him. Around him, the other human representatives, 20 men and women who represented Earth's billions, remained equally still. They had expected this outcome, but the reality still stung. "Does the human delegation wish to speak?" the speaker asked, using the tone one might use with a child. Walker looked down at his datapad. On its screen, he could see the real numbers humanity had carefully hidden from the council. 300 colony worlds, not the 80 they had declared. A fleet of 10,000 ships, not the mere 100 they had admitted to. Technologies that would make the council's finest scientists gape in wonder. He thought about the centuries of patronizing treatment. The council had found humanity when they were taking their first steps into space. They had watched Earth's nations unite, had nodded approvingly as humans adopted their technologies, and had patted themselves on the back for uplifting such a primitive species. What they hadn't noticed was how quickly humans had improved upon those gifts. How they had taken alien metals and made them stronger, taken alien computers and made them faster. How they had looked at the council's satisfaction with their own progress and seen stagnation. "The human delegation has a response," Walker said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. He straightened his simple black uniform, another carefully chosen image, playing to the council's expectation of human simplicity. "For 300 years, we have sat in these chambers. We have watched, we have learned, and we have hoped." Walker's voice remained calm, but there was something in it that made several council members shift uncomfortably. "We have contributed to galactic medicine, to agriculture, to the arts. We have fought in your wars, healed your sick, fed your hungry." He paused, looking around the chamber. Some of the younger council races, those who had supported humanity, were watching with concern. They, at least, had begun to understand what humanity had become. "And in return, you have treated us as children. You have restricted our growth, dismissed our ideas, and ignored our warnings." Walker reached up to his collar and removed his translation device. Around him, every human representative did the same. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. No species had ever dared to remove their translators during a session. The very act was considered a grave insult. Walker placed his translator on the podium with deliberate care. Then, in perfect silence, he and his entire delegation turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Their footsteps, in perfect unison, echoed through the suddenly quiet space. Just before reaching the exit, Walker turned. His eyes swept across the chamber one final time. In that moment, several council members would later swear they felt something they had never expected to feel from humans: fear. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft hiss, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than any words could have been. In the confused babble that followed, only the oldest council members recognized what they had just witnessed. It wasn't just a protest. It was a declaration. Humanity had finally stopped trying to talk. Council member Robert Smith sat quietly in his private chamber aboard the council's main station, watching the confusion unfold across a wall of data screens. To everyone else, he appeared to be just another alien council member. His disguise was perfect down to the blue-tinted skin and extra finger on each hand. Only a handful of people knew his true purpose: to observe and report on council activities from the inside. He smiled as reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The plan was working perfectly. Emergency alert flashed one screen. Human trade vessel Star Merchant has ceased all communication in the Centauri sector. Another screen. Military patrol reports complete communication blackout from human mining colony on Proxima IV. A third. Human passenger liner Pacific Dream goes dark near Tau Ceti. 5,000 passengers aboard. Ship continues on course but refuses all contact. Robert took a sip from his drink, watching the council's response unfold. They were treating it like a technical problem, sending repair ships and communication specialists to investigate. None of them understood yet. The door chimed, and a young council aide rushed in. "Honored council member, your presence is requested in emergency session chamber 3. Robert nodded, adjusting his facial features to show appropriate concern. Inside, he felt only satisfaction. The emergency chamber was chaos when he arrived. Council members from 30 different species argued loudly, their translator devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. "They're obviously planning an attack," shouted the military representative, his scaled skin flushed dark orange with agitation. "Nonsense," replied the trade minister, her crystalline form flickering with nervous light. "This is just a protest. They'll be back to normal trade within days. They need our markets too much to." She stopped as new information flashed across the room's main display. Every human ship in the galaxy, thousands of them, had just powered down their communication systems simultaneously. Their transponders, beacons, and standard identification signals all went dark at exactly the same moment. But they kept moving. Robert watched as the military analysts finally noticed what he had been waiting for. The human ships weren't just going dark. They were moving with purpose. Hundreds of vessels adjusted their courses in perfect coordination, without a single communication signal between them. "Impossible," whispered the military representative. "No species can coordinate fleet movements without communications. The time lag alone." Robert raised his hand, playing his role perfectly. "Perhaps we should review what we know about human neural technology." The room fell silent. 2 months ago, the council had dismissed a human presentation about their research into brain-computer interfaces. They had called it primitive, unreliable, and potentially dangerous. A junior analyst rushed into the room, holding a data crystal. "Honored members, we've detected something strange. The human ships, they're moving in formations we've never seen before. But when we analyze their patterns," the analyst paused, swallowing hard, "they're moving like a single organism." Robert watched as understanding slowly dawned on the council members' faces. Humanity hadn't just gone silent. They had evolved beyond the need for traditional communication. Every human ship, every colony, every individual was still connected, but in a way the council couldn't detect or understand. "How long?" asked the trade minister, her crystal form now dulled with fear. "How long have they had this capability?" Robert stood up, enjoying this moment more than he probably should. Perhaps the better question is, what else have they been hiding? The room erupted in panicked discussion again, but Robert noticed something none of the others had yet. The human ships were taking up positions near every major council trade route, communication relay, and military installation. They weren't attacking. They were simply watching. And somehow, that was far more terrifying. As the council scrambled to respond to this new reality, Robert sent a single thought through his hidden neural link. Phase 1 complete. 3 weeks had passed since humanity went silent, and Admiral Tom Reed of the Council Defense Force couldn't sleep. He stood at the main viewport of the Council's premier military station, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the human fleet was moving, watching, waiting. His assistant, a tall insectoid named First Analyst, approached with a stack of data tablets. "Admiral, the latest reports are disturbing. Reed took the tablets without a word. The first image showed a perfect formation of human ships near the Orion trading hub, 15 vessels arranged in a precise geometric pattern. The next image, taken just 6 hours later, showed the same ships in a completely different formation near the Pleiades military base. "How?" Reed muttered. "The distance between these points is over 50 light years. They couldn't have coordinated this without communications. It's impossible." First analyst's antennae twitched nervously. "That's not the most concerning part, sir. Look at the energy readings." Reed flipped to the next screen and felt his blood run cold. The human ships were running completely dark, no engine signatures, no heat emissions, nothing. According to every sensor in the Council's arsenal, those ships didn't exist. "Play the recording," Reed ordered. A holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed a Council patrol ship approaching one of the human vessels. The patrol craft's sensors swept the area repeatedly, but the human ship only appeared visually, like a ghost in space. "Our best scientists say it's impossible." First analyst clicked nervously. "You can't hide heat signatures in space. Every ship needs to vent heat or the crew would cook alive. Every ship needs to emit some kind of energy signature for basic operations. But somehow, they figured it out." Reed finished. "How many ships have we tracked?" "That's just it, sir. We can only track them visually, and only when they want to be seen. Based on known human fleet numbers, we thought we were monitoring about 100 ships." First analyst brought up another image, this one taken from a civilian trading post. In the background, barely visible, were hundreds of human vessels appearing and disappearing like stars blinking in and out of existence. "We now estimate their fleet size at over 10,000 ships. And sir," first analyst's voice dropped to a whisper, "these are just the ones letting themselves be seen." Reed walked to his tactical display and brought up a map of known human movements. The patterns were like nothing he'd seen in his 300 years of military service. The ships moved like pieces on a game board, each motion precise and purposeful. "They're not just coordinating," he realized aloud. "They're dancing. This is a demonstration." A junior officer burst into the room. "Admiral, the human fleet near Arcturus just changed formation again. They're spelling something out." The main screen lit up with a view from Arcturus. Dozens of massive human warships hung in space, arranged to form 3 simple words. "Are you doing?" Reed felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of military service, he'd never seen psychological warfare on this scale. The humans weren't just showing their strength. They were playing with the Council's perception of reality itself. "Send word to the Council," Reed ordered. "Tell them." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them we're not dealing with a fleet anymore. We're dealing with something entirely new. The humans haven't just mastered silent running. They've evolved beyond our understanding of space warfare." As if in response to his words, the human ships near Arcturus vanished simultaneously, leaving no trace they were ever there. First analyst's antennae drooped. "What do we do, Admiral?" Reed stared at the empty space where the human fleet had been. "We pray," he said quietly, "that they're still interested in talking at all." The neutral trading station, Lucky Star, hung in space like a silver snowflake, its 6 arms spinning slowly to generate gravity. In one of its forgotten storage rooms, head archivist Peter Brown stared at a simple black box that had appeared mysteriously 3 days ago. The box sat on a metal table, its surface perfectly smooth except for a small Earth logo. Around the table stood representatives from 5 different council races, all watching nervously as Peter examined it. "You're sure this is from the humans?" asked Greenshell, the station's security chief. His hard outer shell clicked anxiously as he moved. Peter nodded. "The quantum signature matches human technology. But it's odd. They usually hide their advanced tech. This was meant to be found." He pressed his hand against the box's surface. A soft blue light scanned his palm. and the box opened with a quiet hiss. Inside lay a single data crystal, glowing with a soft white light. "Should we?" Green Shell started, but Peter had already inserted the crystal into a reader. The room's walls lit up with projected images and text. At first, it seemed random, meeting transcripts, video clips, sensor readings. Then Peter saw the pattern. "It's a record," he whispered. "Every interaction between humans and the Council. Every single one." The first entry appeared, dated 300 years ago. A Council science team dismissing human theories about faster-than-light travel. The humans had been right. They'd proven it 5 years later. More records followed. A human doctor discovering a cure for the blue-scale plague that was killing millions. The Council had ignored her work, calling it primitive medicine. 2 years later, when Council scientists discovered the same cure, they took all the credit. "There's so many," muttered one of the observers, a floating gas being named Mist Voice. "How long have they been keeping these records?" Peter moved through the files. Each one showed a time humans had tried to help, to contribute, to be part of the galactic community. And each one showed how the Council had pushed them aside. Then he found something worse. "Look at this," he said, pulling up a file. 10 years ago, humans detected a pattern in space-time distortions. They tried to warn the Council about. His voice trailed off. "About what?" Green Shell demanded. "About the void rifts. The ones that destroyed the Centauri colonies last year. They knew. They tried to tell us, but the Council dismissed it as primitive sensor readings." The room fell silent. Everyone remembered the void rifts. Tears in space that had swallowed 3 colony worlds. The Council had called it an unavoidable tragedy. But it hadn't been unavoidable. The humans had seen it coming. Peter kept reading. The archive showed more. So much more. Humans had solved problems the Council thought impossible, developed technologies the Council couldn't understand, and prepared defenses for threats the Council didn't even know existed. The final entry was different. It wasn't a record but a message, dated the day before humanity went silent. "We tried speaking. We tried sharing. We tried helping. Every time, you turned away. You called us primitive while we surpassed you. You called us simple while we solved your impossible problems. You called us children while we protected you from horrors you couldn't see. Now we stopped trying. Now we stopped pretending to be less than we are. We have watched you stumble toward disasters we could have prevented. We have watched you celebrate discoveries we made decades ago. We have watched you treat us as children, while we became something far beyond your understanding. We tried speaking. Now we will act." The message ended there. Peter looked around the room at the Council representatives. Their faces showed the same realization. Humanity hadn't just been talking all these years. They had been taking notes. Defense Commander Bill Wilson watched from his hidden observation post as another Council warship fired its weapons at empty space. The massive energy beams cut through the void, hitting nothing. The Council ship's crew was shooting at shadows, jumping at ghosts. Just as planned. "Status report," he subvocalized, the neural link carrying his thoughts to the rest of the human fleet. The response came not in words, but in pure data flowing directly into his mind. 500 human ships were currently operating in this sector alone, completely invisible to Council sensors. They moved between the Council's defense platforms like water through stones, neither seen nor heard. A lieutenant's thought message caught his attention. "Council Station 7 is approaching total shutdown. Their crew is refusing to maintain normal operations after 3 ghost sightings." Wilson smiled. The ghost sightings were simply human ships allowing themselves to be partially visible for a few seconds before vanishing again. No attacks, no threats, just appearing and disappearing. The psychological effect was devastating. On his screen, he watched another Council ship spin in place, its sensors scanning wildly. They had been at this for hours, trying to track a human transport ship that kept flickering in and out of their detection range. "Sir," came another thought message, Council High Command has ordered all ships to maintain constant weapon fire on suspected ghost coordinates. Wilson nodded to himself. Perfect. Every shot fired at shadows was draining their weapons, burning their fuel, exhausting their crews, and the human ships just kept dancing between the beams, invisible and untouchable. A new alert flashed in his mind. A Council science vessel had just made an interesting discovery, or so they thought. They had detected traces of what they believed to be the human ship's quantum signature. Let them have that one, Wilson commanded. Time to show them just how deep this goes. Across the sector, human ships began activating their older quantum drives, technology the Council had dismissed as primitive decades ago. As planned, the Council sensors detected these easily. The science vessel's crew celebrated their discovery, quickly sending the detection pattern to the entire Council fleet. Within hours, every Council ship was calibrated to track these quantum signatures. Wilson waited until the Council ships had committed fully to their new detection strategy. Then he sent the next command. Phase 2. Suddenly, quantum signatures began appearing everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. The Council fleet spun in confusion, their sensors overwhelmed. Every ship, every station, every probe detected multiple human vessels surrounding them. But they weren't really there. Sir, one of his officers thought messaged, Council Command is going into full panic. They just realized these quantum signatures match readings they've been detecting for the past 20 years. They're discovering that we've been ghosting their secure installations since before they even knew it was possible. Wilson stood up from his observation post and walked to the window. His ship hung silent and invisible among the Council fleet, close enough to see the lights in their windows. They had no idea he was literally right next to them. Send the final message for today, he ordered. Let them understand exactly what they're dealing with. Across Council space, their communication systems received a simple text message, delivered simultaneously to every ship and station. The quantum signatures you're detecting are not our ships. They're just echoes. We've already been here for years. You just never knew where to look. As Council ships continued firing desperately at false signals, Wilson's fleet moved silently through their formation, untouchable and unseen. They hadn't fired a single shot. They hadn't made a single threat. They had simply shown the Council what true fear felt like, knowing that at any moment, in any place, humans could be watching, and they would never know where. The Star Fortress was the pride of the Galactic Council's military might, a massive station hanging in space, bristling with the most advanced weapons in known space. Its walls were made of metal so strong they could survive a supernova. Its shields could stop an entire fleet's attack. No ship had ever breached its defenses. Captain Mark Evans was about to change that. His ship, the Earth's Remember, appeared exactly 1 kilometer from the Star Fortress's main docking bay. It was an old ship by Council standards, the kind they would call outdated and primitive. Its hull showed wear from years of service, its paint faded by solar winds. The Star Fortress's warning systems blared to life. 1,000 weapon systems locked onto the human vessel. Shields strong enough to stop armies hummed to full power. Evans pressed a single button on his console. His message was broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages. Watch. Inside the Star Fortress's command center, High Commander Stone stared at the single human ship with a mixture of fear and anger. All weapons, fire, he ordered. Nothing happened. Stone turned to his weapons officer, who was frantically pressing controls. The weapons, they won't respond, the officer reported, panic in his voice. Shields. Still at full power, but the officer paused, checking readings. We can't adjust them. We can't change any settings. Evans smiled as he watched the confusion unfold. He hadn't disabled their weapons or shields. He had simply locked them in place, using technology the Council had called too primitive to be useful 50 years ago. Through the fortress's windows, Stone watched in horror as the human ship began to move. It wasn't flying. It was gliding, as if space itself was carrying it forward. No engine flares, no energy readings, no sign of propulsion at all. The Earth's Remember passed straight through the Star Fortress's supposedly impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. Impossible, Stone shouted. Those shields can stop anything. Anything you know about. Evans's voice came through their speakers, calm and almost gentle. But you stopped learning long ago. You called us primitive and missed what we have become. The human ship touched down in the main docking bay, its old metal hull gleaming under the station's lights. No alarms went off. No defense systems activated. The most secure military installation in Council space had been entered as easily as walking through an open door. Stone and his officers rushed to the docking bay, accompanied by a full squad of security forces. They arrived to find the bay empty except for the human ship. No one had emerged. "Scan it," Stone ordered. The readings came back confused. According to every sensor, there was no ship in the docking bay. Their eyes could see it, but their technology insisted nothing was there. Evans's voice filled the bay. "Your sensors can't detect us because we learned to hide in ways you never imagined. Your weapons can't stop us because we learned to move in ways you never thought possible. Your shields can't block us because we learned to exist in spaces between your understanding of physics." The ship began to fade from view, not suddenly, but slowly, like mist evaporating in morning sun. "We tried to share our discoveries," Evans continued. "You dismissed them as primitive theories. We tried to teach you new ways of thinking. You called them simplistic dreams." The ship was almost gone now, transparent as glass. "This demonstration is over. We used technology you called obsolete. We breached defenses you called perfect. And we did it with a ship older than most of your officers." The Earth's Remember vanished completely, leaving no trace it had ever been there. Stone and his officers stood in the empty docking bay, their mighty fortress suddenly feeling very fragile. Evans's final words echoed through the station. "Remember this moment. Remember that everything you thought you knew about us was wrong." Day 100 of the silence dawned with an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber, once a symbol of galactic power, now felt like a shelter for scared beings. Representatives from 1,000 worlds huddled together, watching the main doors with nervous anticipation. Ambassador James Walker was coming back. The Council had sent their surrender 3 days ago. Not just an offer of full membership, but leadership positions, technology sharing, and complete autonomy for human space. They had expected more silence in return. Instead, at exactly 800 Galactic Standard Time, every human ship in the galaxy powered up its communications simultaneously. Every colony reactivated its beacons. Every human installation became visible again. The chamber doors opened. Walker entered, wearing the same simple black uniform from 100 days ago. Behind him came his delegation, but something was different about them. They moved with perfect synchronization, their steps matching exactly. No translation devices were visible on their collars. The Council speaker rose. "Ambassador Walker, we welcome." Walker raised his hand, and the speaker fell silent. Not because of any power or threat, but because in that moment, every being in the chamber felt something they had never experienced before, a presence in their minds, gentle but unstoppable. "For centuries," Walker said, his words somehow understood by everyone despite the lack of translators, "we tried to tell you what we were becoming. You didn't listen." Images filled the minds of everyone present, human scientists working on neural interfaces, developing technology that didn't just connect machines but minds. "While you praised yourselves for uplifting us," Walker continued, "we were evolving. Not through genetic manipulation or artificial enhancement, but through understanding what we could truly become." The images change, showing humans across the galaxy, their minds linked in a vast network that needed no machines, no signals, no detectable communications. The silence wasn't a protest, Walker explained. It was graduation. We stopped using primitive tools because we had grown beyond them. We stopped talking because we had found a better way. Director Mary Pierce stepped forward from the delegation. Her voice joined Walker's in the minds of the council. Our ships move as one because their crews think as one. Our colonies coordinate without signals because distance means nothing to linked minds. We didn't develop better technology. We became better beings. The council chamber erupted in gasps as understanding dawned. Humanity hadn't just advanced their technology. They had transformed themselves into something entirely new, the first truly unified species in galactic history. But why show us now? Asked the council speaker, their voice small in the vast chamber. Walker smiled, and it was a kind smile, because you finally learned to listen. Your fear taught you humility. Your helplessness taught you wisdom. Now perhaps you're ready for what comes next. He gestured and holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing technological breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, and medical advances far beyond anything the council had achieved. This is your invitation, Walker said, not to join us. You're not ready for that yet, but to learn from us, to grow with us, to understand that true advancement comes not from looking down on others, but from lifting everyone up together. The council representatives looked at the displays in awe. Everything they had dismissed as primitive now revealed itself as steps in a journey they hadn't even begun. The age of talking down to each other is over, Walker concluded. The age of thinking together is about to begin. Are you ready to truly join the galactic community? In the silence that followed, the council realized that humanity hadn't won through force or fear. They had won by becoming something greater than anyone had imagined possible, and they were offering to show the way.